At 6 a.m, officers of the Internal Security Agency broke into the house of former Minister of Justice Zbigniew Ziobro and the houses of other politicians of the Sovereign Poland Party, Michał Woś, Marcin Romanowski and Dariusz Matecki. The seriously ill former Justice Minister said law enforcement had not contacted him about the search of his home. The officers wanted to find documents of the Justice Fund, which was managed by the Minister of Justice when Zbigniew Ziobro was Minister of Justice and Prosecutor General. In 2021, the Supreme Audit Office alleged the incorrect allocation of 280 million zloty from the Justice Fund. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Justice rejected these accusations. According to press reports, as part of the search, officers took away tablets and phones belonging to the politicians' children. The prosecutor's office emphasised that it had acted in accordance with the regulations. The illegal entry of the ISA into the houses of sovereign Poland politicians on the orders of the neo-prosecutor's office caused a wave of euphoria among the coalition representatives. Let law mean law and justice mean justice. This is just the beginning. Those are the specifics. For the politicians of the 13th December coalition, Zbigniew Ziobro, alongside Jarosław Kaczyński and Mariusz Kamiński, is the main opponent of Donald Tusk's government. When Ziobro held the office of Prosecutor General, investigators effectively fought crime. The prosecutor's office was also interested in the policies of the Civic Platform Party. A prime example is the former Speaker of the Senate, Tomasz Grodzki, against whom investigators tried to bring corruption charges. They tried because the Senate majority would not allow the waiver of his immunity. When Adam Bodnar's men illegally took over the prosecutor's office, investigators immediately withdrew the request to waive Tomasz Grodzki's immunity. This looks not only like political revenge, but also an attempt to intimidate the opposition and anyone who has a different opinion. Not only the MPs and the former minister were hit, but also 3 Catholic monasteries. This hasn't happened since communist times. Another example is Sławomir Nowak. The Minister of Infrastructure in Donald Tusk's government, one of his closest collaborators, was accused of participating in an organised criminal group and corruption in both Poland and Ukraine. When the politician was in custody, Donald Tusk argued that he was a political prisoner. His trial has just been postponed indefinitely. The only serious element of the ruling coalition's programme is the part about political revenge, and this is where it shows great determination. Investigators also dealt with the former Secretary General of the Civic Platform Party, Stanisław Gawłowski, who was also suspected of corruption. Significantly, when the politician's house was to be searched, the security services agreed with him the exact date of the operation so that it would be carried out in the presence of witnesses. As you can see, the services managed by Donald Tusk ignored this law. There are many examples of politicians from Donald Tusk's camp who have problems with the law. These include Józef Piño, Roman Giertych and Włodzimierz Karpiński.
Posiadam zgodę właścicielki posesji, rozumiem pan, na przebywanie na terenie posesji.
Hence, there are many opinions that the wave of repression against opposition politicians is in fact political revenge for tracking down scandals and pathologies in Donald Tusk's camp.
Jakie czynności są wykonywane? Proszę nie napierać.
MPs from the ruling coalition demand that the president of the central bank be brought before the state tribunal. The procedure will take at least 6 months, but may last for up to 12 months. MPs from the ruling party accused Professor Adam Glapiński of violating the constitution and laws in connection with his position. The opposition says this is a political matter. The application will be considered by the same Committee on Constitutional Responsibility, and then the same will vote on it. According to the judgment of the Constitutional Tribunal from January this year, for the motion to be adopted, 3/5 of the same must vote on it. However, the ruling coalition disregards the judgments of the Constitutional Tribunal that were passed after 2015. What time is it? 12:15? If Siłębska says it's 6 p.m, nothing will change. Today, members of the NPB Management Board talked about the consequences of the attempt to bring Adam Glapiński before the State Tribunal.
Wnioskodawcy tworzą stan.
The NPB is not obliged to agree on monetary policy, and other institutions have no right to encroach on this area. That is what the Constitution says. So we are accused of doing what we do and what we should do within the law. The proposers are creating a legal state of affairs which, in the event of similar threats in the future, Poland will be defenceless and those in public office will be afraid to make decisions. The head of the NBP, in accordance with the Constitution, has legally guaranteed political independence. The judgment of the Constitutional Tribunal from January this year emphasised that the very announcements of bringing the president of the NBP to a state tribunal may be treated as a form of political pressure and an attempt to make the president dependent on power through intimidation. In December last year, the president of the National Bank of Poland wrote a letter to the head of the European Central Bank, Christine Lagarde. In response, we read, If members of the former opposition actually decided to submit such a motion to the Sejm, any measure affecting your ability to perform your duties as President of the National Bank of Poland could, if unlawful, violate your independence. The United Right is convinced that the new government will soon want to introduce the euro currency in Poland, despite public opposition. It is President Glapiński who warns against the negative effects of currency conversion. Importantly, a decision of the President of the National Bank of Poland is required to change the currency. Adam Glapiński's term of office expires in 2028. According to the law, the President of the Central Bank may be dismissed from office if he is unable to perform his duties, for example due to his health condition, or if he has committed serious misconduct. In 2019, there were attempts to dismiss the head of the Latvian Central Bank. The Court of Justice of the European Union then protested and the President retained his position. A container ship lost power and rammed into a major bridge in Baltimore early on Tuesday, causing the span to buckle into the river below and plunging a construction crew and several vehicles into the dangerously cold waters. Rescuers pulled out 2 people, but 6 others were missing. The ship's crew issued a mayday call moments before the crash took down the Francis Scott Key Bridge, enabling authorities to limit vehicle traffic on the span. Maryland's governor said, "The ship struck one of the bridge's supports, causing the structure to collapse like a toy. It tumbled into the water in a matter of seconds. A shocking spectacle that was captured on video and posted on social media. The vessel caught fire and thick black smoke billowed out of it." With the ship barreling towards the bridge at a very, very rapid speed, authorities had just enough time to stop cars from coming over the bridge. Maryland Governor Wes Moore said, "The crash happened long before the busy morning commute on the bridge that stretches 1.6 miles. The 6 people still unaccounted for were part of a construction crew filling in potholes on the bridge," said Paul Wiedefeld, the state transportation secretary. "One of those rescued was taken to a hospital," he said.
The Coast Guard's primary mission right now is search and rescue, looking for any survivors in the water. On scene, we currently have 3 small boats. We also have Coast Guard cutter Mako, an 87-foot patrol boat. We have a helicopter from Air Station Atlantic City, and we're working with numerous federal, state, and local partners on scene on these search and rescue efforts.
Authorities said sonar had detected vehicles in the water, which is about 50 feet deep. The water temperature was about 47 degrees Fahrenheit, 8 degrees Celsius, before dawn on Tuesday, according to a buoy that collects data for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Earlier, Kevin Cartwright, Director of Communications for the Baltimore Fire Department, told the Associated Press that several vehicles were on the bridge at the time of the collapse, including one the size of a tractor-trailer truck. Last year, the Port of Baltimore handled a record 52.3 million tons of foreign cargo, worth $80 billion, according to the state. In addition to cargo, more than 444,000 passengers cruised out of the port in 2023. Belgian farmers jammed Brussels' European Union district with some 250 tractors on Tuesday ahead of a meeting of the bloc's agriculture ministers. Protesters poured dirt, threw beet and sprayed manure while police answered with water cannon and tear gas at the protest. The farmers say more should be done to ensure fair prices and move away from export-oriented free trade agreements. So if we're here again today, it's perhaps more to send a message to society. If you want European policies to move in the right direction and no longer be only an arm of industry and multinationals, you have to change the power in the European Commission and get rid of these people who only advocate for ultraliberalism in European policies, both in agriculture and other areas of society. In a statement, they said progress on fair pricing had been made, but more was needed to protect and support farmers' incomes in a way that respond to current climate and environmental challenges. EU members are debating how to grant Ukraine a further year-long extension of tariff-free access to its markets, whilst also placating farmers who have protested for months against EU environmental rules and cheap imports. So we came to keep up the pressure because they understood our problem, but we're waiting for something concrete. At the moment we've got a few solutions, but nothing concrete. So we've come here to show that we want something concrete. So I hope they'll understand. Things used to be okay, but over the last 2 or 3 years they've gone downhill. We need to recognise there's also the climate problem, which is putting us in a bit of a bind. Everyone wants to work in the same direction, but we have to earn a decent living. David Clarenval, the Agriculture Minister of Belgium, which holds a 6-month rotating EU presidency, has said he expected a solution to be found in the coming days, without detailing what such a solution would entail. But for Hugues Fallis, Spokesperson of the Belgian Farmers Union, FUGEA, the protest intends also to send a message to society in the light of the upcoming European elections in June. If you want European policies to move in the right direction and no longer be only the arm of industry and multinationals, you have to get rid of these people, Fallis said.